Hola, buenos dias. I've now exhausted my entire Spanish portfolio. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of Discover. I know the title of this session is Why Private Cloud is Hot. I'm hoping that I haven't lured you here under false pretense thinking this is about liquid cooling in high-performance compute devices. Joking aside, my name is Brian Thompson. I lead product management for HPE's private cloud portfolio of private cloud solutions that we deliver for customers. And we're hoping to spend some time today to walk through a little bit of trends that we're seeing, different things that are affecting private cloud adoption and use cases, and how HPE is answering those questions. First, a little momentum. If we think about GreenLake itself, and hopefully you guys are familiar with the GreenLake Cloud Platform. You saw Antonio really referencing where the platform itself and the power of that platform and the comprehensive suite of solutions and components that HPE can now deliver via that cloud platform experience, where we're seeing momentum from that. Literally over 4.4 million devices are connected to the GreenLake Cloud Platform now. We think about growth and customer adoption, over 96% stickiness, renewal and expansion from customers as they're finding value and leveraging this platform and these cloud services that we're now delivering from that. If we think about some of the use cases of key customers that are adopting GreenLake and driving these private cloud and GreenLake experiences to help drive their business, a couple of samples to showcase. If you look at Sauber Motorsports, how do they drive intense computational evaluation of data from the field, from the track side? How does that analysis then feed and help them build cars faster, turn within their budget constraints, timeline, and delivery expectations? Barclays has been a great GreenLake customer and found tremendous value. Over the last 2.5 years, HPE has helped them migrate or deploy over 50,000 workloads onto their private cloud infrastructure. And they have plans to double that number over the next 2 years. Working with them from an innovation and optimization workstream, we're helping them drive value from that private cloud infrastructure. Ericsson's a great example as well, as they bring their Ericsson Wallet platform to GreenLake, and where they can extend and secure those financial services experiences to over 400 million connected customers. So again, great example of these companies driving value from GreenLake and the GreenLake Cloud Platform. Now, specifically what I want to talk about is private cloud itself. And if we think about this inflection point of things in the market that are driving change and are influencing adoption for private cloud, on-prem, dedicated types of services. If you think about increased regulatory environments, geodata compliance or privacy compliance, the emergence of AI workloads, and how do I deliver and process AI information, deliver those expectations while preserving the integrity of my data, security, privacy. I want to make sure I'm using models that aren't tainted from outside information. If I look at changes in the marketplace from virtualization itself, we talked a lot, if you attended Antonio's keynote, about the overall runtime and where organizations are facing changes based on market adoption, where pricing or costs of different runtimes have now changed, and how that's changing influence and how they start to look at that. If you look at what is the reality, from IDC recently ran their Cloudscape report as they interview over 1,700 C-level executives of different enterprises globally to understand their cloud adoption trends. And right now, that data point comes back that 88% of those organizations are hybrid cloud today. Whether by design or by accident, they're running workloads in private cloud, public cloud, trying to manage a complex and sprawling estate. The emergence of AI workloads is increasing that focus as well, where 50% of those are looking to leverage private and dedicated infrastructure to support their AI workloads. For all those same reasons: security, privacy, control over my data. How do I make sure that my corporate data isn't being used to train somebody else's model? These are emerging trends that we're actually seeing that kind of come from that. That same survey starts to look at what are the driving factors that different customers are looking at. What do they value or what's important to them as they look to these different cloud solutions. And if you think about the themes, some of these are going to be fairly obvious, right? Improved or enhanced security, that thought of sustainability, an increasing view as I look at my overall IT estate. How is that aligning with my company's sustainability goals? Can I measure that? Am I delivering against that? Improved performance over variable workloads that I can't control, environments that might be legacy and I'm not getting the right performance elements from that. Overall availability, I'm still running mission critical systems. How do I ensure I can deliver that to my customer experience, my end constituents? And then of course, better control over the environment. These are all somewhat equally weighted as to driving factors of why organizations are adopting private cloud solutions today. I'm sure this resonates, one or more of them, with you directly, but it's one of those things where some facet of all these affect all of us. Now, if we think about what does that mean, how is that driving private cloud? Private cloud's not new. This isn't a new concept. We've been building private clouds for years now, 10 plus years easily. However, most private clouds in the history of this are fairly complex. I'm bringing together what might be disparate technologies with complex or brittle integrations. It's very manual for me to operate or deliver that to my internal users. It's difficult to maintain software lifecycle management, consistency, testing, training. They're typically siloed. They are designed as single function stacks. They don't really embrace natively what is today a hybrid cloud working model. Self-managed. I'm taking on as an organization the burden of operating these different cloud technologies, which may not be a core competency. I may, as organization Acme Company, may not have those skill sets to be a cloud platform operator. And then you really start to look at some of the things that drove adoption of cloud. How do I start to get that self-service agility, but also that concept of utility consumption, metered experience? How do I understand the costs associated with my workloads? How do I attribute those in a reporting or showback experience that I can better understand the cost of my infrastructure? How am I optimally leveraging that? What are these workloads costing to run? If we think about what does this evolution mean and what are customers looking for today, it's that modern private cloud experience. How do I have a hybrid by design solution? As an organization, I have to operate in a hybrid way. How do I have a private cloud solution that helps me understand, automate, and leverage workload placement across private and public cloud estates, multiple cloud technologies? How do I deliver that self-service experience to my end users? If I think about the value of cloud and that self-service experience, it's not about serving just an IT administrator. I want to empower and enable developers, application owners, to be self-sufficient to deploy and manage their workloads just as they would in a pure public cloud, with that same agility and self-service capabilities. Again, first generation private clouds typically were just focused on virtualization. How do I deliver virtual machines in a consistent, reliable way? The needs of today's workloads expand beyond that. VMs, of course, are still at the core of a lot of these different workloads, but I need the ability to provision and manage bare metal in the same way with that same agility and self-service nature. How do I start to deliver and execute against more cloud-native architectures using Kubernetes and different container-based platforms? The focus on that modern private cloud to deliver all of these cloud primitives, not just virtualization, becomes key to that. And this all drives towards what customers are really looking for at the end of the day. How do I drive faster time to value and a better total cost of ownership to deliver these workloads that serve my business? This is that focus on that next generation modern private cloud experience. If we think about the GreenLake Cloud Platform and where we've continued to drive as a private cloud portfolio, it's been deliberately focused on solving just that. How do we have a hybrid by design solution, a platform that's designed to serve the needs of private cloud as well as your hybrid cloud estate, spanning across multiple locations, edge form factors through core data center, through public cloud? How do I deliver that self-service cloud experience again, to empower and enable your application owners, your developers, those end cloud users to leverage the flexibility, agility, and self-service nature of cloud services. Yet I also want the governance and control that can be put behind this. How do I control quota limits, spend costs, visual or understanding of workload placement, workload optimization, giving the guardrails that as an organization I need to leverage with great freedom, providing that self-service. I want to make sure I provide that gates around that. And then that consistent experience. How do I deliver a fully integrated and optimized experience where I'm not running separate tool chain, all kinds of different services in order to serve that one common experience? Looking at, again, more survey type of data and stuff that's come back, this was actually a total cost of ownership survey or actually research paper that Constellation Research did earlier this year. And they found that organizations adopting private cloud, on average, were able to see a 50% cost savings over running those same workloads in pure public cloud play. The same thing, they saw a 65% increase in workload performance. Now, these are all those characteristics that go into what are the workloads that I'm trying to run in my private cloud. Historically, if I'm trying to leverage public cloud and I have a very persistent or steady state workload, I'm not taking advantage of the variability, the scale up, scale down, turn off workloads. How do I recover those costs from public cloud? An enterprise core mission critical workload that is always on costs me way more to run in public cloud. Organizations are finding that efficiency of running those mission-critical, data-intensive applications in private cloud can yield a significant cost savings and reduce that total cost of ownership. We also look at, again, those emerging workloads. I think about AI applications, the latency and sensitivity to data that I'm acting on. How do I have application entanglement, data gravity, where I have other core systems that I'm looking to run these next generation cloud-based workloads against? Driving that efficiency of that private cloud experience has been critical in solving or addressing those needs for many customers. Beyond just me talking about it though, I would love to welcome to the stage Miriam Ferrando, who is the Chief Information Officer of FC Barcelona. Please. Miriam, thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hopefully you guys got to see the keynote yesterday and the intro. I can't compare to that to what we saw with the FC Barca team and the fanfare that went behind it, but it's a great honor to have you join us, really as a true customer that's facing some of these same challenges and how they're solving that. So would love for you maybe just to introduce yourself and your role.
Okay, so I'm Miriam. I'm the Chief Information Officer at FC Barcelona. So I've been in FC Barcelona since 2016 and always involved in IT initiatives and IT projects linked with the venue and the operations on match days, but as well with business. I was working in VLM, so it's our merchandising and licensing enterprise. And yeah, so involved always with IT. And 2 years ago, responsible for the Espai Barça technology department and encourage every single day to our incomparable project Espai Barça. So excited.
Very excited.
To look ahead.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about FC Barcelona's transformation. What is your vision?
Yeah, so Espai Barça, it's not just a club's project, so it's a project for the city. We are building a space to keep winning. So winning in terms of opening to the neighborhood and the city. So we can provide a greater comfort to our members and fans and gaining international visibility in the world of the sports and entertainment. So it is also a transformative project that includes not only the renovation of the new Spotify Camp Nou, but as well the construction of a multi-purpose Palau and the creation of a Espai Barça campus that will be within Les Corts neighborhood. So it is essential for us for maintaining FC Barcelona at the forefront of global sports. And also this project, it's a club's economic recovery and future viability. And it serves as a tool to preserve the governance model, and we're over 130,000 members on the club. So yeah, it's modernizing our home and facilities to create new environments and new spaces, assets to generate this additional revenue, and we aim to be leaders in technology and sustainability as well. So yeah, it's a lot of things, but yeah.
It's very ambitious, but I think it's an amazing facility, and you even talked about it yesterday during the keynote, that focus on building new experiences and systems of engagement for fans and attendees, and very excited of the overall kind of facility. If you could maybe elaborate on, as you evaluation, like part of this thing is how do you deliver these services via private cloud instances within the facility, but obviously you looked at hybrid cloud or other solutions in the past, kind of what brought you to this point?
Yeah, so the club's hybrid strategy fits with the HSP vision so much, because for us it's not only going all in public clouds, but maintaining private cloud environment with on-premises components that you can hybridize. So 2 years ago, it was time to look ahead and explore strategies, rethinking, and a new business model was being developed, and we were committed to deliver excellence from day one. So data governance, for example, and proximity, we needed to be near our facilities where the services we need to provide. And we are talking about 15,000 devices physically. So we need to bring compute and connectivity closer to the data. Control over our data, it's essential for us. So yeah, there were too many things and highlights that we found that it matches. And our roadmap, it was focused on rethinking the strategies, and we did it.
If you think, as you were developing that strategy, kind of different directions, how you might have been leaning towards public cloud, or what kind of influenced, or how have you seen that evolve, or specifically why you kind of chose the course that you have?
So when it comes to business challenge, we thought about scalability. We thought about to be agile, and we required an infrastructure and communication platform that could scale seamlessly, you know, and includes delivering real-time images. So the demands on fan experience and business, we needed to have cloud and environment like private, then scalable, and agility that were those highlights for us according to business challenge.
Yeah. It's interesting, you kind of mentioned that as you think about this and this engagement with all these devices and all these fans, and that customer experience in real time. Latency is a concern, availability, scalability, all those things to deliver that seamless experience for a customer. I would imagine that's key to what you're looking to achieve, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious if you, we think about kind of your long-term vision, right? So obviously the near term, as you talked about with Antonio, and this initiative to really build the new stadium and this engagement, what is your long-term vision? What's next for FC Barcelona as you get through this ambitious kind of next phase?
So, according to HP GreenLake, so for us, it's part of our core foundation, and we prioritize flexibility as well. And for us, creating this core foundation with a robust infrastructure, so it is essential, and you can grow. You can grow if you have this infrastructure robust. So we think about taking advantage of AI, for example,
Sure.
Real-time data analytics. So you need to get an advanced data and game performance and strategy. You need to be ready for that. So we are thinking about how to explode this data. So we need to be prepared on data platform and then scale. But if you don't have this data platform ready, you cannot be thinking about AI or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, we think about real-time data and new revenue streams. So monetization, data monetization, for example.
Yeah.
So we don't know what is to come, what is about to come, but we need to be ready. We need to be ready for, I don't know, for example, I always think about if Taylor Swift come to our new Spotify, we need to be prepared. So imagine like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
There's a scale problem right there.
There is a scale problem right there. And anyone would think about how to manage this technically, but you need to be ready for whatever it comes. World Cup, maybe. And predictive models, for example. So we need to be prepared on that, operation systems, and the practice of data mining and behavioral and identity profiling. So we need to always look ahead on that thing. So we have a lot of things to think about, but yeah, to me it would be like the prioritizing list.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing to me. I see the convergence of cloud agility with AI and the potential of how can you explore, leverage this technology and the use cases that this presents from both the industry and the customer engagement and from the profile of the sporting and football. It's super exciting. I just think it's really neat. So
yeah, exactly. So not all workloads, I can reside in public. So you need to identify the most effective results. So both economically and technically. So FinOps also a great strategy. So for us, it's essential, and PC have it. So yeah.
It's interesting that last point is I think that gets overlooked, but as you think about that full spectrum of what you're looking to solve for, where that FinOps space comes into it, how do you understand workloads? Are you optimizing how you're deploying, where you're deploying, managing that? I think that's a great lens to bring to it. So
exactly.
Very exciting. Miriam, thank you for your partnership and for sharing your story.
Thank you very much.
Really excited to see the future here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miriam's story, I think, is a great one, and it's really common. Like, yes, I wish I had a cool job working for FC Barcelona and in such a high-profile industry, but if you think about the common challenges that they are facing, how are they looking to solve for it? And it really comes into that operating model. How does she get the agility and scale that she's looking for from cloud services, that self-service? You heard us talk about the FinOps aspect of it. How do I provide that full end-to-end experience from deploying and managing and orchestrating those workloads with that cloud experience that spans that? This is that focus of our private cloud portfolio and the problems that we're helping customers solve by leveraging these technologies to deliver that where they need it to be. In this case, multiple sites within a physical building, the stadium, delivering those systems of engagement to customers and capturing and analyzing that data in real time. Awesome use cases, very, very cool, not uncommon. Almost every industry is facing these types of challenges and looking for that agility and a cloud operating model that helps them deliver that. We talk about, and their deployment is actually what we call our private cloud enterprise solution from HPE, which again is that next generation view of a private cloud experience, How do I deliver from standardized infrastructure, those building blocks of HPE optimized infrastructure, to deliver different workload profiles? Those cloud primitives, virtual machines, bare metal orchestration, container-based services that I can deliver any of those to my constituents depending on what their workloads are requiring, what are they needing to deliver. And then now delivering that full hybrid cloud experience, that everything from how do I discover, observe, orchestrate, manage, automate, all the way through all of my workloads across those different form factors, surface areas. This is that private cloud experience that we're focusing on delivering for customers. We deliver this as part of a portfolio. There's not a one-size-fits-all private cloud. We have different form factors, consumption models, everything starting from a basic cluster management, customer-managed self-service tool, all the way through a fully managed private cloud experience that can be multi-site, multi-region, different availability zones, delivered as a cloud service for those customers. You've heard us talk about during the keynote yesterday, hopefully you've seen on our expo floor as well, things like our private cloud for AI. How do I deliver an optimized stack, including the software tool chain and stack to deliver turnkey AI solutions? And even within that private cloud portfolio, delivering things like a disconnected solution that can be fully air-gapped from public internet or private network or public networks, that I can ensure high security government entities, or where we have partners leveraging that to deliver sovereign cloud use cases where I can control access to the data, the cloud operator persona based on nationality, security clearance, et cetera. So this portfolio of private cloud solutions are what we're bringing to the table on how we actually deliver these different experiences. But one of the keys that I like to do as we go into this is not do PowerPoint and actually show it to you, make it real. So I'd like to segue if I can and maybe give you a quick view of that private cloud experience. Okay, that's how you know it's real. What I'm going to walk you through is our HPE Private Cloud for Enterprise dashboard experience. These are the tools that we provide to customers, again, serving that end user, that cloud user persona. How do I give them direct access to work just as if it was a public cloud experience? But now I can deliver it to them where I need it to be, within my data center, my private on location, edge locations, et cetera. So the point of this is, again, we think about advanced tools like role-based access. How do I control and govern what types of functions an end user can do? What are the resources available to them? What are the guardrails that they have to work within, from security policies to network access, all the way through quota management, if you think about it that way? How much resource am I going to give them access to? We talk about that cloud user experience and those cloud primitives. How does this span across everything from bare metal provisioning? I want to make the self-service experience to provision and deploy a bare metal workload just as seamless as if it was a virtual machine. So use cases where I need a physical database server, or I have an application where I want to optimize licensing costs based on core count, so I'm not going to run it in a virtual machine. I have that self-service power within this tool. How do I, again, extend that ability to deploy, manage physical devices, physical computers, just as if it was a cloud instance, add new services, connect them to networks, add storage, providing that capability, again, in a self-service experience. We think about that same thing spanning into the container space. As an administrator, I can define what are those blueprint templates for different Kubernetes clusters that I would enable, making it very easy for the cloud user to then stand up a new cluster as they need to. Or if I have an existing cluster, I can drill into that, and as a user, pull down things like my kubeconfig, or update the version of Kubernetes that's running it, or providing those self-service tools to make it very simple for me to deploy and manage those container-based workloads in my private cloud experience. We also talk about that cloud FinOps experience and the importance of that. Visibility and cost control is a key driver for customers as they both understand what their cloud users are consuming, but it's also an opportunity as they think about optimization decisions. Do I have zombie workloads, VMs that have been provisioned that aren't doing anything? Do I have workloads that are not properly sized. I need to resize that. But we think about the inherent integration of our consumption analytics. As I provision and manage workloads, I have metadata associated with myself as a user, with the groups I'm associated with, or my ability to tag different workloads, giving me great fidelity of reporting capabilities. I can think about and start to create custom reports looking at what is my consumption, across what clouds, private cloud, public cloud. How do I think about building things like showback reporting or shameback, as it can be used, trying to drive customer behavior or end user behavior? Do I have people that are overspending on resources based on what's been allocated to them? This type of reporting and capability becomes critical as organizations are, again, looking to optimize or leverage that private cloud experience. One of the cores to this, though, really comes into how do I think about virtual machines, the lifeblood of any cloud. And today, the vast majority of those workloads are running in the context of virtual machines. So of course, I have this dashboard ability. How do I look across this particular location? What are the VMs that I have running? What health are they in? I have a specific service console, which has provided us the foundation for our private cloud enterprise experience. How do I understand my workloads? How do I provision new workloads, again, in my private cloud or extending to public cloud? How do I provide automation and orchestration that can describe not just an instance, but an application stack, or pre or post deployment scripting, things that I need to do to actually harden or bring up these workloads? This has been a key and a foundational component of that private cloud enterprise experience. And as we leverage this, this is actually where we're leveraging the Morpheus platform. Hopefully in the keynote yesterday, you heard Antonio speak to this of Morpheus, has been an OEM component of our private cloud and a core part of our strategy for the last 2 years. We think about this as that hybrid cloud enabling experience. How do I discover and deploy a workload on almost any surface area? That's that core experience that we can now extend through this. We obviously announced and have made the very strategic acquisition of Morpheus, bringing them into the HPE family as we double down on this. This becomes that common control plane that now extends across my private cloud portfolio, as well as enabling those true hybrid cloud experiences. So again, if I think about the power of that platform, specifically within this, I have that ability to look at things like blueprints. How do I templatize common application stacks that I want to enable or publish as a service catalog to my constituents, my users, make it very easy for them to click to deploy these different predefined or curated application stacks. If I think about that experience of provisioning a virtual machine instance, again, depending on my user, what are the clouds that have been made available to this user? My private cloud? Which region of that private cloud? Which private cloud? Do I extend access to different hyperscaler public clouds, where I can, again, provide that same user experience, the same governance and management that spans across that? I'm controlling their access and therefore my visibility across that entire estate. So all this automation orchestration is inherent to our private cloud portfolio and becomes part of that, again, hybrid cloud control plane experience that I can extend across all that full experience. I'm actually going to pop back in this because what I'd like to do now is actually invite Brad Parks to come join me on stage. Brad is the Chief Product Officer of Morpheus and is a big part of this. Brad, thank you.
Nice.
So Brad, welcome back to HPE. As a boomerang, Brad was with HPE 10 years ago.
It's been a minute.
Left to go to a startup called Morpheus, which has had an amazing run and created a Magic Quadrant leading solution, which again, we had leveraged from a long-standing partnership, but are really excited now to have Morpheus in the family officially and have Brad kind of welcome back.
So I was a redheaded stepchild for a while, but it's nice to be back in the family with Brian, my brother. We've been working together for probably 4 or 5 years co-engineering this stuff, so it's exciting to come out of the shadows, and I'm used to seeing Antonio and Brian up on stage doing the demo I've been doing 1,000 times a year, but it's fun.
Love it. Good. Welcome. I'm Brad, actually curious for your take. Obviously, I'm coming at this from an HP and a private cloud, but I think the power of Morpheus, you've been working in the market, helping organizations build private cloud solutions manage their estates across all kinds of things. What do you see as kind of emerging trends or things that Morpheus was really responding to?
Yeah, I hate to say it now, but I don't care about hardware. Like, I think that's it's blasphemous at HPE Discover, but I think really the opportunity for customers and some of the trends we're seeing is as you've got developers, data analysts, project teams, really the end consumers of IT are more demanding now than they were maybe 5 or 10 years ago, because they have had a taste of that public cloud experience. And so I think the pressures that you guys are all feeling, I'm sure, are more acute now than they might have been 5, 10 years ago. And private cloud might have meant something different in the early days. Today, you've got more of a need for API addressability, people adopting things like infrastructure as code, wanting to land the right workload on the right underlying runtime. And that might be different for a steady state workload, like you mentioned, the mission critical, versus an AI workload or those systems of engagement that we mentioned for FCB. So the bringing together of kind of the stakeholders of IT and core IT creates a different set of requirements. And so that's been exciting for us, is to help kind of HPE move up stack and help our customers provide application services that are meaningful to the business, rather than just having to be focused on the infrastructure layer all the time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I know selfishly, part of why we had partnered with Morpheus early on, as we thought about that private cloud experience, was really driving that cloud user persona. So bringing and building on the role-based access control capability, but also just the extensibility of that Morpheus platform. We think about API plugins, right? Support for infrastructure as code, Terraform, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, et cetera. I think this is key in that part of that transformation, right? Is we're really seeing that evolution from, it's not just the IT admin, how am I provisioning or delivering raw infrastructure, all the way through now to that true cloud user experience of self-service.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've noticed in talking with HPE teams and customer teams over the last 7, 8 years, private cloud, again, 5, 10 years ago, might have been just slightly better VMware, right? I can clone a VM, right? But when you think about why a lot of early day private cloud projects failed, it's because you look at what AWS, what Amazon do in a very proprietary model. They still have to manage all the components. They have networks and load balancers and automation tools, but they hide it all, and it's all proprietary, so they can bottle it up. If we apply that same mechanism to an on-prem data center for those mission-critical workloads, you've got third-party networking, load balancers, IP address management, a backup tool, an operations and logging tool, your automation scripts. Bringing all of those together into a platform framework is really where Morpheus shines, and I think that's been eye-opening, I think, for a lot of customers as they've tried to replicate the public cloud experience on-prem. It takes a lot of engineering work to make that simple.
Yeah.
And that's where we've been focused, is making things easy to integrate all of those third parties, not just the infrastructure and the hypervisor, but all the other pieces. So bringing the technologies closer together, but also the people, the personality types that we work with in big enterprises. It starts with IT, folks in this room who more and more are being seen as the platform operations team. That's a role we've seen emerge, but also the security team, right? How do you embed security agents and golden templates and make sure your security posture is right? The development team, who oftentimes has been a little friction with IT. How do you be a better stakeholder to them? And then lastly, FinOps, I think you mentioned as well, as one of those personalities. So how do you not only bring the technologies together in a seamless way, but also the people and the personas that have to work in the enterprise?
It's interesting, that balance, because I think this is exactly that. How do I enable that agility and self-service, but yet provide the governance, right? Those guardrails. How do I enable that self-service, but with the control in place? And then there's literally that FinOps kind of from a reporting and understanding facet of things, I think, kind of comes into play. I'm curious, and I know that you've got a separate track that you've been very popular as we talk about.
It's the first time I've ever been called popular.
Yeah, well, yeah. One of the key topics and themes, Antonia had really introduced this yesterday during our keynote. Hopefully you guys have explored this or are interested in exploring this. We think about the impact that we've seen in the market from runtime, right? As organizations are leveraging or have been leveraging a commercial relationship, suddenly that's changed ownership and the costs are now changing. As organizations are looking for alternative paths, obviously HP announced our VM Essentials as a core capability, again, through our partnership and that joint engineering work and what the Morpheus team has helped us accelerate bringing to market, will be an integral part or capability of our private cloud. But I'm curious of where you've seen that specifically and kind of the interest around.
Yeah, it's been an exciting journey for us. I mean, over the last 8 years, we've probably provisioned thousands of VMware-based private clouds, but we also talk to a lot of KVM-based clouds,
Yep.
things like Nutanix, OLVM from Oracle. You've got all the underlying hyperscalers are using KVM. So we've been turning hypervisors, bare metal, and container clusters into private clouds for a number of years. We've won Best of VMworld multiple times for enabling VMware-based private clouds, but certainly over the last couple of years, there's been interest in alternative approaches for certain workloads, not just for VM workloads, but I think the economics have changed such that people are taking a harder look at the pace of their container strategy. What workloads maybe make more sense on public cloud now in a different economic model. But one of the things we saw as Morpheus over the last couple of years is people thinking about alternatives, looking at open source options. It's not always easy to take a VM admin who's got VMware experience for years and point them at an open source project, like a KVM, and make that transition. So what we started doing was to take kind of our expertise at the orchestration layer, but we've been running KVM internally, our lab, in our demo environment for a number of years. So we started applying some of that simplicity down at the KVM stack. And when we came inside the HPE family, compared notes with what Brian and team were already doing in that space. And we're very excited to launch VM Essentials this week at Barcelona. And we can think of that as almost in that vSphere Standard Enterprise Plus, kind of a basic VM vending for KVM and VMware at the same time. But because it's using the same code base, it's fully tied into the full Morpheus suite. So whether you've got a couple hundred VMs or 20, 30, 40,000 and need all the bells and whistles, we now have a full software suite to take you from very simple all the way up to some of the most complex enterprises on the planet and make the runtime decision almost a non-event. I mean, yes, it's an event, you have to put thought into it, but if you're thinking about the workload, those databases, those web services, those applications that you're providing, being able to make choices around hypervisor A versus hypervisor B, container technology A versus B, backup tools, automation tools, networking tools. Once you've abstracted all of the componentry into a composable set of features, you're really focused on that workload, what you're driving to your business, and you have the freedom to make choices that are right for your business without having to reinvent your customer experience, without having to reinvent governance, without having to reinvent the financial accountability. So that's been exciting. I mean, I love telling our story. It's a problem that just about every customer I talk to is trying to gain a little freedom and control back, and we're happy to be able to provide that.
Yeah, that's what I've actually always loved about that management plane. If we think about that experience, is the ability to add or remove or change some of those underlying technologies while preserving the important part, that customer experience, the governance that you put in place, the cloud FinOps facet of things. That I think has been so key, and why I'm really excited about, I can't even call it a partnership anymore, of bringing us together and really extending that. My last question for you, Brad, is put on your old Johnny Carson Carnac, future vision. How do you see this? Like, obviously the hybrid cloud has been part of that story and how we bring this together, but how do you see the future of these different investments or focus that we've been making from product, from not just virtualization, that orchestration, and even beyond?
Yeah, if I look ahead, I mean, we're going to continue to be agnostic and even double down on that. The virtualization solution is going to support HPE, but also third-party hardware. So I think bringing more of that agnostic view, so you're not having to worry about which platform it's running, is a place where we're going to be focused. But one of the biggest ones that I've seen, I think I've had the benefit of being external and not only helping HPE, but Dell, Lenovo, Accenture, Deloitte, Kyndryl, even though Morpheus was relatively small, all of these entities actually built their private and hybrid cloud offerings and service sets based on Morpheus. So one of the patterns that I saw, all of those entities were using both Morpheus and OpsRamp together, actually, to provide services to their clients. So now that we're inside the tent, I think there's a lot of good co-engineering that we can do across that federated multi-hybrid cloud landscape, all the way from kind of day zero, provisioning those applications, running them through their life cycle, through to day 2 to day in, which is where OpsRamp comes in, being able to monitor alerts and events, remediate those in that feedback loop. So end-to-end management is, I think, an area we're going to be focused on, along with the rest of the engineering teams. Even things like Zerto, which it has a great hybrid cloud story to do the data plane. So I'm excited to bring it all together. And I think one of the things, even being on the HPE side, I was part of a number of acquisitions, and it's relatively easy on PowerPoint to show all the parts and think about the future, but it doesn't always come together at big companies when you have all the ingredients. Sure. I think from an engineering perspective, Morpheus already has integrations with external backup tools. We already integrate with Zerto. We already have integrations from the data monitoring side into things like OpsRamp. So it's not just going to be a PowerPoint exercise. Very real engineering that's already been happening, bringing to life over the next 3 to 6 months. Yeah. It's going to be a fast track to that vision slide you had of all of the stages of the journey.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I think it kind of just brings it back as we think about, as we kind of opened, the growth and momentum we're seeing from the GreenLake platform, right? Private cloud is one of many offerings that are consumable from the GreenLake platform, but we think about Morpheus and OpsRamp and a number of these other, Zerto, another great example. These are all very thoughtful technologies that we brought in and are tightly integrated to deliver that full experience, right? How do we span your estate and provide that visibility that goes beyond that? Brad, thanks for joining us. Again, I think just in closing, hopefully this was valuable to hear Miriam's story and the real world applications and problems that they're solving and why they've chosen private cloud. Hopefully you got a little bit of a flavor of where we are going and where we continue to drive that private cloud experience to deliver a true hybrid by design capability for organizations to solve these problems. So thank you, and thank you all for your time today.